Let me know if I need to talk louder. It's usually not a problem. But yeah.
You don't have a slideshow, do you?
No, no slides.
Cool.
Just a couple flip chart pages. I like flip charts. Some of the best things I ever learned were learned off of flip charts. If this one holds. Cool. So, tying together everything that we just talked about. Who wants pipelines?
No.
Yeah, no pipelines. So our big picture goals: no new pipelines or fossil fuel infrastructure. I can say I was about to write Virginia as I was writing these, and I was like, nowhere. Stop the plans to transition to frack gas power. Also was about to write in Virginia. This one needs to happen nationwide. Protect our natural lands, our wildlife, and our agricultural lands. Protect human public health and safety, and transition to renewable energy sources like wind and solar. It's good for the environment, it's good for the economy. Why? Just kind of tying together everything that we just talked about. Environment, people, economy. Pipelines are not good for any of those. The ACP alone is going to produce millions of tons of carbon pollution per year and other pollutants. It's a 42-inch pipeline over almost 600 miles, carrying, they say, about 1.5 billion cubic feet of compressed natural gas. Or is it liquid natural gas? Compressed. It goes through forests, waterways, mountains, all of the things that we love and want to protect. We already know that fracking is dangerous and that it continues our addiction to fossil fuels. And we have incredible places here like the George Washington National Forest, the Appalachian Trail, the Blue Ridge Parkway. We don't need a pipeline through any of those. It would not make them any more enjoyable, or probably make them a lot less enjoyable. People, compressor stations and pipelines are dangerous. They explode. There have been over $68 billion in property damage so far from pipeline explosions. Eminent domain, I don't think it's, this is a good enough reason to start seizing people's land, property, farms. I don't think there's any really good reason to start seizing people's private property, but in terms of how eminent domain laws are used, this is not something that's going to benefit the people or the economy of Virginia. And economically, it's going to cost billions of dollars. They estimate about $8 billion from the Atlantic Coast Pipeline to Virginia. We're going to pay a lot of those costs. And I think someone already mentioned, if we're investing all that money into fossil fueled natural gas, we're not investing it into renewables. And the carbon reduction goals, Virginia just set some. So we know our governor gets it. We need to address climate change. We need to reduce carbon pollution. That doesn't match up with approving a bunch of pipelines. The only thing that this results in that's positive is profits for Dominion, Duke, Piedmont, and Southern Gas. Profits for utility companies. That is the only thing that we've proven that will be positive, and it is only positive for those folks. So what do? We know who our big decision makers are who can deny these permits. DEQ, FERC, Forest Service. If we can get Dominion to withdraw this application, that would be another way to go. But we want to put as much pressure as possible on DEQ, FERC, and the Forest Service to deny these permits, and we can do that by building a diverse and broad grassroots support community leaders, and show that opposition coming from notable folks and our public officials. So we need to leverage our public officials to call the EQ and ask them what's going on, ask them to deny these permits, and that's our representatives here, especially in Northern Virginia, should be coming out strongly in doing so. And we want to also see outreach from faith leaders, business owners, health professionals, our farming communities, and the communities that are going to be directly impacted by these pipelines. We can all start standing together and saying no. So that is kind of what we're going to get into in our breakout sessions. Some of the things that we can actually start doing that we're going to talk about, lots of public outreach, letting people know that these pipelines are proposed, then building and applying that pressure on our public officials, putting lots of petitions into DEQ, FERC, and the Forest Service, then actually going and appearing at their meetings, building opposition to the compressor stations locally, making sure our boards for Fairfax and Loudoun are strongly opposing these pipelines, getting our message out in the media, writing letters to the editor in response to articles about the pipeline, writing letters to the editor just in general about the pipeline, holding public demonstrations and public meetings. Just a couple of the ways that we brainstormed. Maybe 2 or 3 hands, other ways that you all are thinking already that we can start taking action, something that you're thinking about doing?
Advertising and social media.
Yeah.
Social media?
We have public demonstrations every 2 weeks in Charlottesville in front of the Dominion headquarters, just to bring it. And we get a lot of good public attention from that.
So when you
Yep.
speak, please stand up, because I can't hear you in the back.
Yeah. We have several offices for Dominion locally. There's an office in Herndon.
And you use the mic.
Sorry. Sorry for anyone who can't. Oh, it's off. There we go.
It was the question, it was the person up front that they wanted to
Yeah, Kirk was saying that there's demonstrations every week or every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks in Charlottesville, so, and we have them now in Fishersville, Augusta County. We have people coming out and holding signs up in front of the local Dominion headquarters in that region.
Where would you find out about those meetings? Where would you find out information about those meetings?
They're on the Friends of Nelson website. I just saw that yesterday, actually. So they announced the demonstration in Charlottesville.
So sign up for action alerts from Friends of Nelson, Wild Virginia Sierra Club.
This might be a far shot, but you remember that little place on the coast you showed us that was Dominion owned?
Ocho Point.
How susceptible to sea level rise is that? Because I know that most of the coast is very susceptible.
I'm not sure what the elevation
It would be interesting to just
Yeah.
research that briefly and
Yeah.
then make a case.
I saw Derek's hand.
Something kind of building off of something you said there, as far as pressuring public officials, some of you probably know this was an issue that came up in the Democratic primary for governor.
Yes.
I'm wondering, do we want to try and pressure Northam on it?
Yes.
Good pressure and we'll continue.
Jam.
Hey guys, I'm Jam. Just to piggyback off what Derek said, Northam has already said he would only oppose these pipelines if they pass the strictest environmental permitting process available. Right now, the DEQ has went back on that. They said they were going to do site-specific permitting for each stream and water crossing. They
Yeah.
now say they're going to rely on the Army Corps blanket permit. So what we need to do is say, hey, listen, Lieutenant Governor, you said that you would be okay with these pipelines only if they pass the strictest environmental regulations. They're no longer doing that. How can you pressure DEQ, which is under the purview of the governor's office,
Yes.
to do these site-specific permitting? And all the engineers and hydraulics we know say they cannot pass these tests. So I think that that's a great way to do that. And
Yeah.
the tactic we can employ.
We can talk about that some more. I'll take 2 more from Dave and from Scott, and then we'll talk about breakout groups.
Piggybacking on the last 2 statements, what did Cuomo do in New York to stop the pipeline, and can we do something similar here?
So the question was, what did Cuomo do in New York to stop the pipelines? Can we do something similar?
He had their Department of Environmental Conservation require a full 401 certificate.
He did, and it's, you know, New York has a moratorium on fracking, and they have they really don't like fracking or gas pipelines, so they actually denied 2 pipelines, but they approved a 3rd pipelines, which is kind of inconsistent overall. But the political situation there is such that Cuomo is against the pipelines. So what I'm hearing distinctly is that he had a lot of influence on that from the political point of view.
Awesome. And then I'll take one from Scott, and we'll bring the rest of our ideas into the breakout sessions.
For those of you who are members of an organization, such as a board member or head of an organization, you might consider writing an op-ed. Sometimes it has a larger, you can use up to 650 words rather than 250 words in a letter to the editor. I would suggest that you go on your local news website, figure out who's in charge of the op-eds, call them up ahead of time, pitch it, and then if you get a positive response, write it and then send it in.
Yep. Editors list their contact info on websites for all newspapers, and you can pick up the phone and call them. Media tries to make themselves seem very inaccessible, very important, and like your time is, you know, your information is not worth their time, but pick up the phone and call them, especially as a local citizen.
The question about what Cuomo did in New York City has an amazing relationship with the Adirondacks because you can't do any development in the Adirondacks. It's a huge, huge protected natural base and protects the watershed for New York City. So New York has some of the most pristine water in the entire country. Well, we have the George Washington National Forest, so advocating for the same type of watershed protection there, or looking at the National Forest as a climate and water reserve, as opposed to a productive natural resource extraction zone, would be a very good thing to do, and that's something that, of course, we all can do.
Cool, awesome. So what are we gonna do now? Now we are going to take a short break, and then we're gonna come back and get into breakout groups. Anyone who's leading a breakout group will either stand up or come up here. Cool, so we have, are we combining DEQ and Forest Service?
Yes.
Cool, so we have 6 breakout groups. Jam, do you want to come up here?
Okay.
Jam is from Chesapeake Climate Action Network and is an awesome organizer. Do you want to talk really quickly what you're going to do with letter writing?
Yeah. Hey guys, my name is James G. Bakhtiari. I work for the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. It's a mouthful, so you can just say I'm Jam, and I work with CCAN. I'm going to be doing a training on letters to the editor writing, which is a great way for you to shape the discourse in your communities. Right? So we have letters to the editor teams all around the state that have actually changed the way that their local newspapers have reported on the pipeline issue. And we want to do the same thing here, so that statewide we can control our media. Because as everyone here probably knows, Dominion gives thousands of dollars in advertisement and ad space to every local newspaper statewide, right? So we have to compete with that with people power. Yes.
Do letters to the editor that are not published influence the editors?
Yes. So what that would signal to the editor is that more readership cares enough about this issue to take time out of their busy day and write us a letter about it. And if they're getting enough letters, even if they're not being published, that means we need to cover these stories more. Because they just want eyeballs. It's a business for them. So let's tell them where their eyeballs should be. Great.
Cool. And then we're petitioning DEQ.
Where physically will letter writing be?
We haven't figured that out yet. So I think when we're actually gonna, you all are gonna have to get up because we're gonna use the corners in here. We have the conference room next door. So that's 5, and then we can use either the hallway, or if folks want to go sit out on the benches outside, I think that's 6 spaces that will allow for them to be far enough away from each other we can have conversations and not have it be hard to hear. So I would just say pick a corner, and then we have signs for the breakout sessions, and you'll just find whoever is holding the sign for the session that you want to go to.
What's your name? Just come find me.
Let's just pick corners as we're doing this. Cool. So we're gonna pick corners as we're doing this. Letter writing's over here. So letter writing's gonna be in this top, this front. It's your left. And then we also have a breakout group on petitioning DEQ, and I guess we'll also be talking about the water crossings. Yeah. Kirk and Ernie are gonna lead that group. I think Tom is also gonna join them. Do y'all want to say anything about that, or we've talked a lot about that?
I think we've talked about it a lot. It's some major issues that are coming up really fast, and we're going to be asking for specific action.
So if you want to focus your actions in on DEQ, collecting some petitions, join them. Posing the local compressor station. Scott and Chris are going to take that. Do y'all want to raise your hand?
Hey, I'm Chris, and this is Scott. So Loudoun and Fairfax counties both have some compressors that they're looking at either building or expanding, and we think that there's some direct stuff that we can do, some opportunities that we have to work with our elected officials and try to make some progress on this stuff.
This is the great unknown story in Fairfax County about the WB Express compressor station, which is being built in western Fairfax County.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
Yeah.
It's being built?
That's, it's been, yeah, we'll talk more about that. Yeah.
So the really short version, at least for the Loudoun part, is if you are willing to show up at a public hearing, I especially, and speak out against this, I definitely want to urge you to come to the compressor breakout. But even if you're not real comfortable with public speaking, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. We're going to probably need to go door to door and canvass the vicinity of the compressor in Loudon. There's other stuff too.
And Maria Bergheim is going to lead direct actions.
Wait, where were they gonna be?
Over there, by that
Okay.
door.
By the
That one's
top.
labeled, it's easy.
That's where we are. Yeah.
Cool.
So speaking of other stuff you can do, actually, kind of along the lines of those compressor stations, I'm going to be leading the direct action, and I don't know how many of you have actually been involved with that, but that's, I can go over that, different types of direct action, nonviolent direct action. Maybe if you guys want to plan something, some like very basic, protesting and rallying, and maybe leading up to maybe arrestable, who knows, but definitely mostly on the non-arrestable actions against Dominion and anybody else. And it's going to be right over there.
Cool. Yeah, we'll make it clear where folks are when we actually break into groups. And I'll be talking about community meetings, so, oh, Chris, with your foot. So if you want to give a presentation and if you want to have a meeting, host a meeting, or go into a community group and give a short presentation about the pipelines and start getting people plugged into action, kind of want to recreate a small version of what we did here today, come join our community meetings group. Then we've got Pressure and Local Reps, and that'll be Amanda and Hutch.
Hi everyone, Amanda Tandy with 350 Loudon. I'll be leading the group with Hutch standing back there. Ours is going to be more of a primer of your local officials, all the way up from your HOA boards to the governor, and talking about what do we want to do as a group for that. So we'll break it out, we'll talk through some stuff, and then decide either in small onesie-twosies or as the whole group what you want to do next.
What if we want to go to all of them?
It's it can be a very hard decision. Think about where you first want to start taking action. There will be sign-up sheets for all of the groups in the groups, and then we can put them out on the table during lunch. And if you want to keep getting email updates about what's happening with that group, you can sign up there. Or if you want to add your ideas to an area that you're not sitting into a group, we do have the sticky notes and the flip chart pages, and then just kind of figure out where you want to start first and go there, and other things you want to get involved in, you'll get plugged in.
Can you tell us at 12:30 each group is going to report out, so all of us
Yes.
are going to hear the key, what came out of the groups at 12:30.
So 12:30, we're coming back together as a group. Would really love to stick to that time. Do quick debriefs of what everyone talked about in their group and a couple, major things that they think are their next steps. And then at 1 o'clock we have lunch for you all. That should be arriving around 12:45, and we'll have to then rearrange space so that we can all have lunch together. But please, stay. If you can stay after at 1 o'clock, we'll have lunch together, and we'll be able to keep the conversation going.
There's one more.
We combined Forest Service and the DEQ groups together, so Ernie and Kirk those are a combined group. I will say, if you are not interested in any of these action areas and you really want something very specific that you want to talk about, we can form another group and anyone wants to join you, we can form another group for that. So does anyone here have something that's not listed up here that they would want to talk about and feel comfortable leading that group? Yeah.
I'm not sure how this fits.
Can you stand up, please?
I'm not sure how this fits, but I certainly want to talk about this because it just happens that on Tuesday I have an appointment to meet with Barbara Comstock's Chief of Staff.
Okay.
And they just want to know what I care about.
Do you want to bring that into the local reps group, or should that be a separate conversation?
So some of my questions are going to be where I need to know exactly what the boundaries of our districts are and what pipelines or pumping stations are in it.
I think that would be a really great one-on-one conversation for you to set up with some of the folks in Loudon. But does anyone raise your hand if you would want to be in a breakout group about a meeting specifically with Barbara Comstock? right, so we'll cover that a little bit in the local reps.
In Barnes Comstock's district.
Yeah, so we've got some folks in Comstock District, we can have that conversation one-on-one. So what time is it now? Do folks feel like they need a bathroom break or just a breather? So let's come back at 11:45 at the very, very latest and start breakout groups then. Look for the sign for your breakout group.